This morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to the second day of this kickoff workshop of Mecila. And this first half hour, we're going to quickly present the research areas, the three of Mecila. And to kick us off, I wanted to just welcome my two colleagues, the postdocs of the other two research areas of history, research area politics and research area medialities. To the far right is Carlos Nupia. He holds a PhD in political sciences, and he's joined Mecila a little while ago. He's mainly interested in the question of knowledge circulation, as many in the research area, and he has a particular focus also on Colombia, where he's also from originally. In the middle of us is Philipp Naucke. He holds a PhD in anthropology and also in peace and conflict studies. His regional expertise is also in Colombia and Guatemala, if I understand correctly. So welcome to both of you. And now we will go as follows. We will present the three research areas in this order. First, Philipp is going to speak to the politics of conviviality research area. Then Carlos is going to present quickly the main aspects, or maybe the past years of the medialities of the conviviality research area, before I'll speak quickly to stories and histories of conviviality.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this short presentation of the research areas. Thank you, Tilmann, for the kind introduction. I will begin by introducing the research area politics of conviviality, which I'm actually in the process of exploring myself and getting to know it, because I just started as postdoctoral investigator last week. So let's start with the current speakers. As you see in the slide already, the current speaker is Sergio Costa, who also serves as Mecila director in the moment from the Free University of Berlin, Marta Machado from the host institution of this event, the Cebrap, Brazil Center of Analysis and Planning, and Juan Piovani from the Universidad Nacional de La Plata and the Consejo Nacional de Investigaciones Científicas y Técnicas de Argentina. Next slide, please. Former speakers of the research area were Laura Flamong from the Colegio de México and Marcos Nobre, also from here, from the Cebrap. And as you already mentioned, I will coordinate the research area for the next year. Next slide, please. So maybe I will say a few more words about the conceptual proposal of the research area. Starting point of the research area politics of conviviality is a question of how differences are negotiated in contexts of power asymmetries and how they impact patterns of inequality in convivial configurations. The research area inquires how various agents, including social movements and activists, governmental agencies, academic community, migrants, indigenous people, informal networks, the digital public, and many others, either enhance or challenge existing inequalities through their everyday and institutional practice. I think some of these aspects were already discussed yesterday. What is crucial to note is that the idea of the political is not limited to the realm of institutional politics, macro structures, or top-down power relations. Of course, it involves the analysis of conviviality, inequality within party systems, electoral disputes, political preferences, legal decision-makings, public policy governance, and so on. But politics also encompasses everyday life interactions, unstably codified practices, unspoken conflicts, informal agreements, which are also marked by inequality and conviviality in particular ways. In the sense, both the public and the private sphere of social life are eminently political. Following this conceptual proposal, fields of interest and discussions include conceptual tools for conviviality research like necropolitics, vulnerability, intersectionality, aspects of democracy, political polarization, and right-wing backlash, conviviality and inequality in daily interactions, impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on conviviality, as well as human, non-human relations and counter-hegemonic epistemologies such as planetary ethics, eco and cyberfeminism, post-humanism, and ancestral knowledges. Next slide. Consequently, past events organized by the research area have addressed these fields, and I will just give two quick examples. For example, a Mecila civil society workshops entitled Our Common End, Climate Interdependencies Between Europe and Latin America, took place in Berlin last January. The workshop aimed to bring together intellectuals and those affected by climate change effects from different regions of Latin America for a dialogue with experts and activists in Germany, discussing questions of common interest. Another workshop took place in September 2023 on the topic of the Amazon complex, more than a rainforest, scientific and transdisciplinary approximations, in which the multiple transitions in the Amazon were discussed. Of course, the research area also was and is part of Mecila's outreach activities, as the Diálogos Mecila podcast, El Siglo de Diálogos Mecila Claxo, and the joint lecture series Making Sense of Post-COVID World. With regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, it should also be mentioned that the research area was responsible for an extensive comparative survey study analyzing the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the conviviality and equality nexus in the cities of Berlin, Buenos Aires, and Mexico City. Next, please. Regarding upcoming activities that are already planned, that include a workshop as part of the Berlin-Brazil Dialogues entitled Brazil Challenged, New International Geopolitics and Brazil's Role. The workshop will take place on May 13th and will discuss Brazil's opportunity to re-establish itself as a leading force in international politics in view of its G20 presidency, the coordination of the BRIC groups, and as host of the COP30, sorry. Last slide. And of course, there's a research area colloquium, which we are currently organizing at lightning speed. As you can see, the sessions are planned to have either a presentation of a fellow or will discuss a text, with two sessions being held jointly with the Histories of Conviviality research area. We are still in the planning process. You will receive the program and an invitation as soon as it is completed. So much for the research area, politics of conviviality. If you have any question, doubts, suggestions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Tilmann, for the introduction. Thank you, Philipp, because you were here just 2 days or 3 days, but we have made a very good team for organizing this kind of presentation today. I had another presentation, but they organized this presentation. Thank you, Tilmann. So the first point is, okay, you can see here our speakers, principal investigators. So we have Gloria Chicote, who is here. Gloria, thank you very much for being here. And Gloria works in the Instituto de Investigaciones en Humanidades y Ciencias Sociales, CONICET, Universidad Nacional de La Plata in Argentina. Has a lot of experience working with Germany and in this kind of projects like Mecila. Barbara Goebel, who is the director of the Ibero-Amerikanisches Institut, or the Ibero-American Institute in Berlin. And this is the institution in which I'm working now. And I will give you some general information about the Institute. You can also take some brochures that I left there with different opportunities that maybe we offer in the Institute. And I don't have time here to explain all, but maybe we can talk later. And Susanna Klengel, who is in the Freie Universität Berlin, and she's working in literature studies. Barbara is coming from anthropology. Next one, please. Okay, here there are other names that maybe are familiar to you, or I hope that in the next days, especially when we have our session in the colloquium, so you will know better. So the first one is our director in the EIE, our director of research, Peter Bille. He comes from political science and communication studies. We also have the experience of Christoph Müller, who is a person who is working in all these topics of infrastructure, of information, and all this kind of open science and digitalization. So we had a lot of experience about that. He has experience, so he's coming from literature studies and digital humanities. We have also Peter Schulze, who is in the Universität zu Köln, Universidad de Colonia, in cultural studies and media studies. Stefanie Schütze, Freie Universität Berlin. She's coming from social and cultural anthropology. Clara Rubituso, who was the person who was in charge of this coordination before. And he's a really lovely colleague, and he's working in sociology and political science. And Astrid Ulloa, who is working in the Universidad Nacional de Colombia. Next one, please. So here you can see some figures about the dimension of the Ibero-Amerikanisches Institut in Germany. So we are talking about the second largest library in the world about topics of Latin America, and the first one in Europe. And so there are some ideas of medialities. So you can see that. So the different groups of medialities that we have available for research, and it is very important to take advantage of this opportunity. And the concept of the Institute is trying to work together these three main areas: collections, which is a very important part of our work. So we have a lot of collections, different kind of collections, special collections, which are very important to improve the quality of the researchers or the research. And culture, we have a very broad academic program, culture program. Is offering different kind of information about Latin America culture development, conferences, concerts, workshops, seminars about different countries in Latin America. And the other part, the third part, is research. And this is the area in which I'm working, and Peter Bille is working as well. And all the three areas works together. And then this is the advantage of the Institute. So we can mix these three areas, and so it is a very important place in which you can find this information, but you can find out cultural exchange, and you can find as well research, and especially because you can check all the information about Latin America in one place. So this is very important. Okay, next one, please. This is about our research area, Medialities of Conviviality. So we include different concepts that actually we discussed yesterday. And the first one, it's the first thing that I would like to highlight is that we analyze through the lenses of inequality and difference. So these are the two lenses, very important. And we observe co-production of circulation and appropriation of knowledge. But at the same time, you can see that when you check information, when you check knowledge, you also see imaginaries, and you also see representation. So this is a very important point for our research area. And we use at least three interconnected dimensions. The first one is the analysis of representations and identities in dispute. The second one is the difference of media, genres, and properties, including material and immaterial. This is very important because we are talking about immaterial medialities, and it's very important because it's not. At least as far I read, it is not a very elaborated concept. Now there's always more focused on material medialities than immaterial. So this is very important. And the first part is obviously the tension between inclusion and exclusion. So next one. Here you can read some fields of this interest, discussions that we have. developed in our researchers. And the first one is the practices such as writing, drawing, photographing. So Monica is here, and you will be invited in our colloquium. You will present this idea of mediality in photography. The second one are archives and cultural heritage as convivial spaces. This is one speciality of the home, speciality of the house in Ibero-American Institute. Third one, digital transformation, shaping the circulation of knowledge. Fourth, yes, mediality of conviviality with the framework of literature and genres. And interdependent inequalities shaping academic canons as well, dynamics of marginalization and inclusion voices. Okay, so this is the general idea about that, the area, the research area. Here you can check some events that we organized last year. And one of these events is very important. It's not an event specifically from our area, but this is an event of Mecila, but we collaborated last year. It is the Mecila annual meeting. We collaborated here with the coordination in Sao Paulo with Tomas and all the team here. And we also organize this kind of, in the right column, you can see an example of some workshops that we organize every time that we receive people in other instruments of Mecila, for instance, German research visits, or some visits who are coming, or some guest researchers who are coming to Berlin. So we always take advantage of these visits, and we organize other events, workshops, conference. Next one, please. So this is one of our more important, I say more important because I spent a lot of time organizing this conference. So this most important conference, the name is a public lecture series, Diversity Medialities. So it was an idea that my colleague Clara Rubituso organized it from the very beginning, and now I'm continuing. And yes, this is a program. You will receive too much information from me. So these days I'm sending too much information with this program. So this is the beautiful flyer that we organized and we designed in the Ibero-Amerikanisches Institut. And in the right column, you can see the next events. We already had this conference with Freie, Freie, which is professor here in Sao Paulo, but she was visiting Germany for, I don't know, one semester. Next one, please. And here you can see this is the information I sent you. This is the program of the colloquium, and this is a virtual colloquium that is like the other areas. And thank you very much for the collaboration of all you fellows that are accepted our invitations, especially to reflect about this topic of medialities. Next one, that's the last one. Okay, so this is a special invitation for tomorrow at 11 o'clock, 11 morning. We have a presentation of one colleague of mine who is working this topic of research infrastructures. So I am not specialist. I just took some screenshots here for showing that you as Mecila fellows, you have the possibility to include in your researchers more information coming from information who is specially designed, especially digitalized for you. So this is the Mecila e-library. So tomorrow we will receive more information, more specific information about that. And please come and please take advantage of this. Come, yeah, sure. But no, take advantage of this possibility, because we have spent too much resources in this kind of ideas. And it is important that you use, every time that I say all the possibilities, I see all the possibilities, I say, okay, this is for the guys, for fellows, please take advantage. And the last one is, this is not for Mecila specifically, this is for everybody, but it is a very important effort of the Ibero-American Institute, is the digital collections. So we have a very good offer of digital collection that you can just subscribing in our in our office of library office. You can access this information online, so it is not necessary Okay, Schade, but it is not necessary to go to Berlin, but you have to download and to access this kind of information. Maybe this information can improve your empirical data for research. I will say this is all. There is another one? No.
And tomorrow comes 11 at Institut. Before the colloquium that we'll have, he will be there also with an online colleague from the EIE. So please.
Yes, we have a colleague from EIE, and she's given a lecture online. So please come because my colleague is. Okay, thank you very much. Everyone?
I'll now have the pleasure to present the third research area, that is histories of conviviality, with the current speakers Carlos Alba from Colegio de Mexico. He's a sociologist and one of the long-standing people in this network of collaborations out of which Mecila was forged. Then there's Samuel Barbosa, who was here yesterday, heading one of the tables and coordinating one of the tables, and Barbara Potthast from University of Cologne, who's still around, a historian and who has been also very essential in organizing a lot of the activities to do with the research area, but also beyond. And I'm from anthropology, coordinating this already for some time now. The conceptual proposal of the research area histories, I think, is one that tries to focus in on the historical dimension, or a variety of historical dimensions of the processes of conviviality and inequality in Latin America, and in particular looks into all the different conceptions of time. Well, at the basis are all the different conceptions of time you can imagine, sort of a continuous understanding of it, but also interruptions. And two of the conceptual notions that Mecila has put forward to study this is the configurations or convivial configurations that can change, that will have an impact over the regimes that are sort of governing these different logics of how conviviality and inequality interlink. To this end, we look into the different presentations and representations in discourses, as well as in other cultural, socioeconomic, and legal manifestations. So Samuel Barbosa, for example, is a historian of law. So we've been working quite a bit also on how different legal frameworks have changed over time, and also how they are overlapping and mutually influencing one another. The research area has a particular awareness for past and present configurations and regimes that are shaped by the various entangled histories that are negotiated across and sedimented in the historiographic, legal, and anthropological and literary accounts. So you can see already here that while the three research areas are really making a huge effort to sound different, they actually overlap quite a bit. And that's also part of the colloquia. So you are invited to participate in one of the colloquia, but you're also invited to come to the others whenever there's anything of interest happening there. The last, I think, conceptual idea maybe that tries to reformulate what I've just said in other ways is that histories, the entanglement of histories, like history with a capital H, let's say, and stories or historias, is actually really just an index to understand the different dimensions that the different disciplines bring to this historical dimension, comparative dimension. Throughout these last years, we've worked in different fields of interest and had quite vivid discussions on a couple of very central ideas that are related to the idea of histories of conviviality. In one year, we discussed the question of how temporalities, the understanding of temporalities, different notions of time are entangled with different colonial experiences, the legacies of colonialism, post-colonial times, or the continuation of coloniality. We also debated quite fiercely how labor and race are entangled in very distinctive ways in different centuries of the Latin American history, how the modern period has had a past before that, and that not necessarily what applies to the last 150, 200 years is also actually valid for the time before that. Our historians in Mecila were always quite convinced that they needed to make this point, and I think it's really crucial for the more modern disciplines to listen carefully. that has led us also to debate the idea of multinormativities and legal pluralism throughout time, but also in contemporary times. I think Samuel Barbosa, if anybody's interested, is a real specialist in this. We've published a collection of articles that came out of a quite intense collaboration between Samuel Barbosa, Osvaldo Barreneche, and myself in the Mecila book series. In the very first year, we also debated notions of the state and questions of power. And last but not least, I think there's two dimensions that I want to highlight here. One is we spend a whole year basically debating different methodologies and the different methodological foundations of the disciplines that we brought to the table in order to better understand why we sometimes have such a hard time to enter into a dialogue, and we can have a conversation on this. It was really interesting because people brought the different materials to the table, and we debated how people engage with the source material, let's say. And as one of the consequences of money not spent throughout the pandemic, we decided, not least to my own interest, to develop a particular focus area on the urban question and how there's different narratives of conviviality inequality in the urban realm. And that has led also to the urban fellowship, the Urban Narratives Fellowship, where there's always one normally per year. Marco Teixeira, who was here yesterday, is going to be this year. And the particularity of this is that it is a fellowship that sits at the intersection of science, arts, and activism. By now we've actually, or this year at least, we'll have adopted the format of a colloquium, but in the past we also were quite open to have reading spaces and open spaces for more open debates, especially during the online years of the COVID time. I just want to speak quickly to a couple of events that we've organized that sort of are meant to give a fundament to what I've just said. There's an early workshop that we did in 21 on class travel and conviviality, travelers in the early modern times, organized by a couple of colleagues that are part of the research, or that were part of the research areas. Two of the associated investigators, where travel reports of early travelers were investigated regarding the question of what they say about encounter, what they say about how life unfolds in a convivial, despite unequal way. We had a number of workshops actually on the debate of multinormativity and legal pluralism, out of which the book emerged. The examples that I brought here from the urban focus in the research area are a number of workshops that we organized throughout the years. One was relating the question of politics and the everyday to Latin American cities. Another one was looking into the more than human convivialities, animals in the city, organized by a couple of fellows. And last we had a debate on poetics, materialisms, and formations. What are the current contributions of urban lives from cities in the global south? So setting Latin America into conversation with other regions of the global south. The particular fellowship I'm quite happy to also highlight, because I think some of the most interesting transfer activities, let's say, came out of the Ibero-Amerikanisches Fellowship. One of our fellows had organized a number of workshops with artists in a cultural center. What is it called again? Maria Antonia, no? Yeah, of the USP, where they've engaged with migrant groups in the city of Sao Paulo, and another of our fellows has organized an exposition and also a couple of workshops in the Museum of the Migration History of the state of Sao Paulo. This is the immediate next activities that we I've organized for this coming year together with you, and I think all of the three research areas and the colloquia try to set you as the current fellows into dialogue with previous years of fellows and other members of Mecila that are not always present in Sao Paulo. So I'm quite happy to say that a number of former fellows, a number of, by now, PIs or advisory board members have agreed to debate your work, and I think it's a nice opportunity to also pursue this network idea of Mecila. Thank you to them, and also thank you to you for accepting to participate here. And I think it's really particularly nice that we'll have fellows, that we have colloquia that are co-organized by the different research areas. Last but not least, a couple of things to flag for the coming months, things that are organized by the research area in conjunction with the whole consortium. There is a thematic workshop, 2 thematic workshops organized in relation to the research area. One is organized by our colleague Gesine Müller, who participates in the research area Convivialities. Otherwise, she has a particular focus on world literature that will happen in June in Cologne. And I think a number of people of Mecila will travel there. And then there is actually a workshop very much to do with the research area, but not organized by people, not merely organized by people of the research area, but organized by Gloria Chicote, Juan Piovani, 2 of the speakers of the other areas, and Barbara Potast in La Plata at the end of the year, Histories, Migrations, and Memories, Contested Convivialities Shaped by Differences and Inequalities. The Marco Teixeira will organize a urban narratives workshop similar to the other ones that I just presented in December. So those who are lucky enough to stay until the first week of December will also participate in that. And last but not least, these are just a couple of conferences we are organizing. In particular, I wanted to highlight that yesterday evening a proposal came together for a round table at the South American Anthropological Meeting together with fellows from this year, Ana Cuccinho, Chita, a fellow from last year, Antonella from CONICET in Buenos Aires will join us also, and Miriam Alves, a senior fellow who's joining us later. We'll debate critical ethnographic approaches on the ideas of Mecila if the table is accepted at the conference in Salvador in August. Thank you so much, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me or any one of the people that were mentioned. I guess since we're late, maybe we should continue right away.